Hi there, and today I'm finally going to make a start on what will become the absolutely giant upscaled snack bar. Now 5 weeks ago, I announced in my usual weekly video that my next upscale project would be this snack bar. And in that video I went through the instructions of this set step by step, showing all the different parts that I'm going to have to build at 6x scale. And if you haven't seen that video yet, I'd thoroughly recommend popping back and watching that one at some point so you know how this project's going to go. But today we're actually going to make a start on step 1. Now at first glance, step 1 looks nice and easy. We've got an 8x16 green base plate, a 1x4 white brick, a 1x8 white brick, 2 1x1 white bricks and a 2x4 white brick. However, so far it's taken me this long to get all the pieces I need just for the base plate. But when I say just the base plate, this is actually going to be the largest piece we build for the whole set. And it's taken me so long to get started because to build this one base plate is going to take 1,594 pieces of Lego. Now I'm upscaling at a scale of 6:1. That means this 1x1 plate gets scaled up to this size, and that is 6 down by 6 along by 6 up. And 6x6x6 is 216, so that means that this piece is 216 times the volume of the original 1x1 plate. And just to give you a bit of perspective, that means if we had 216 of these original 1x1 plates and we stack them in piles of 6s and then put them 6 along by 6 up, that means we would get a solid version of the upscaled plate. However, because it would just be 1x1s, it wouldn't hold together very well. But as mentioned in the previous video, my intention is to make all the parts of this set completely smooth with tiles, so that, and also hollow underneath. That means they can completely stack on top of each other and we'll be able to take the set completely apart. Now if this is the size of an upscaled plate, we've got to remember that our 8x16 base plate is considerably thinner than an 8x16 plate, so we're obviously going to make our upscaled version considerably thinner too. Another thing to remember is that I'm actually very limited in space on my build desk here. And when we multiply our 8x16 base plate by 6 for our upscaled version, we're going to end up with a base plate which is 96 studs by 48 studs. Now 96 stud is handily divisible by 32, so it's the width of 3 32 stud base plates. And as you can see from this 16x32 base plate, I don't have much more width than one of those on my build desk here. And if I put 3 of those base plates side by side, you can see that I do not have the width to fit this in on my build desk. So I said it was 96 wide and it's 48 high. That's going to be the width of this 16x32 with another 32x32 in front of it. And as you can see, I don't have the depth either. So for a lot of these videos, I feel we're going to be leaving the Lego studio and doing a little bit of on-location filming in my dining room, where we've got a lovely big dining room table. I'm going to evict the rest of the family and I'll have a lot of lovely space to spread out and build the snack bar. So our first layer is going to be traditional base plates. We've got 3 16x32s and 3 more 32x32s. And then on top of that, and holding all those base plates together, is going to be a layer of regular plates. And I've got a lot of 16x16s and some 8x16s. I'm going to make sure that they are placed across the joints of the base plates to hold the thing together. So that gives us a base plate and a plate. Then to get that nice smooth finish on the top, we're going to need a layer of tiles. So that gives us a base plate, a plate and a tile. And then finally on top of the layer of tiles, we're going to need all of those brick built studs. And because our base plate's 8x16, that means we're going to need to build 128 studs. Now originally I had decided that it was going to be quicker, easier and of course a lot cheaper to make this a studded surface by using these 4x4 round bricks instead of smooth studs. But then I thought once I had created this I would always regret that decision, so I thought if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. That's why I'm going for the smooth tiled version. So each one of our smooth studs is made up of 7 separate Lego pieces. We've got a 4x4 round plate, and then on top of that we add another 4x4 round plate. Then in the middle we've got a 2x2 round tile. Then around that we've got 4 2x2 macaroni tiles. 3 and 4. And that's the size of our stud. Now normally I buy most of my parts from Bricklink, however I need these 3 parts in such large quantities, trying to buy them on Bricklink just wasn't feasible. There weren't enough people who had enough of them for sale in the UK. I'd have to spread my orders over so many sellers, each one of those charging me postage. And some of these parts on Bricklink actually work out more expensive than they were on Lego Pick-a-Brick. And Pick-a-Brick meant that I could order all the parts and get them all together at the same time, and as the order was going to be over £50, I'd also get free postage. And this is where we come to the parts count. So I said we're going to use 3 of these base plates along the front and then 3 of the 32 by 32 behind, so that's 6 base plates. And then on top of those base plates we've got 10 16 by 16 plates and 14 8 by 16 plates, so that's another 24 pieces. For each stud we need 2 of these 4 by 4 round plates, and with 128 studs that means we need 256 round plates. We only need 1 2 by 2 round tile per stud, so that's 128 of them, but we need 4 macaroni 2 by 2 tiles for each stud, so that's a 512 count of those. And then around each stud we've got 4 2 by 4 tiles, so that's also 512 of those. So all the stud parts have come from Lego.com, and all of the plate layer as well. The only parts so far which haven't are the base plates, as Lego don't make those in that colour anymore. And then the final part that we need is a 2 by 2 plate which holds the stud onto the plate layer below. Now these don't have to be green, and unlike the tiles I don't need them to be all nice and shiny and new, so they don't need to be new pieces. So I found the cheapest colour for sale in the UK, which happened to be yellow, for under 1 pence a piece, and so far I've bought 350 of those off Bricklink. But for this first base plate obviously I only need 128 of those. We've also got a few extra pieces needed because the corners of these base plates are slightly rounded, and I wanted to have that effect on my upscaled version too. But I'll show you how we're going to do them as we come to them. And that's how we come to our final piece count of 1,594 pieces for one base plate. And the other reason why it's taken 5 weeks to get all this together is that this project isn't going to be cheap. Now I had the green base plates already, but everything else I've had to buy in new. And all the large plates for the plate layer and all the parts for the studs above has so far come in at about £135, which is just under about $180, which is probably the perfect time to give a big shout out and a thank you to all my channel members. Thank you so much for your support, it really helps the channel out and helps fund these big projects. And if anyone else would like to become a channel member and get their name on a brick in my videos, you can click on the join button below this video or the link in the description and that'll tell you how. But now it's time to start building 128 upscale Lego studs. Now I have no idea how long it's going to take me to build 128 upscale Lego studs, so I'm going to do it under time lapse and reduce it down to a reasonable length of video. And as it's probably going to take me quite a while, I'm going to go inside and do it in the comfort of my dining room. So that is 128 studs, and Lego actually gave me enough parts to make 3 more studs, and I had 1 extra macaroni piece. So in total I made 131 studs in 53 minutes. So that's an average of 24 seconds per stud. And while I built 128 studs, I finished off watching the great film The Hunt for Red October, which I started watching last night. But next, let's start building that base plate. And it's incredible to see on video how different these green base plates actually look in colour. In real life I can see they've got an ever such slight difference in colour, due to these 4 being vintage plates from the 70s and 80s and these 2 being more modern plates. But that colour difference is really exaggerated on video. But the colour difference doesn't matter, these are going to get completely covered up and never seen, and that's our next job. We need to start adding plates on top of these base plates. So to make sure it's the absolute strongest it can possibly be, I'm putting a 16 by 16 over each of the corners, like there and there, and then we're going to fill in the rest with other 16 by 16s. So we're going to have our 10 running, row of 5 at the bottom, and then 5 above it, like that. And then to fill in the gaps, that's when our 8 by 16s come in. We're going to run those around the edges again so they cross over any joints we've got. So 5 at the bottom, like that, and then 5 at the top as well, covering those joints. And then after that, we've got 4 going down the sides, 2 down there, 2 down there, and then we're going to have to do something different for the corners. So with another little bit of time lapse, I'm going to completely ruin my fingers and push all this together, and then we're going to start smoothing it off with all those lovely tiles. Now, having never made anything like this before, I had no idea how this was going to go, and actually this is pretty sturdy with just those 2 layers complete. You can wobble it around, it does flex a little bit, but nothing's going to come apart. It's pretty good. Now, my original plan for the corners was that I was just going to use 8x8 plates like that to fill in the gaps, and then on the corner of those I'd use my regular 2x4 tiles, and then put a stud on top. So the corners would be just like that. However, like I said, the original base plate have a curved corner. So instead of using an 8x8, we're actually going to use 3 4x4s initially and put those on like that. Then I've got these 3x3 plates with the curved corner on them, and then one of those is going to go on the corner. Then we're going to fill one of the sides with a 1x4 and then another side with a 1x2, and that gives us our curved corner. So now instead of our 2x4 tiles going right to the corner, what we're going to do is we're going to only have 3 in each corner like that, and then the 4th one's going to be replaced by a 2x2, and then another one of our macaroni tiles, and then inside that we have one of these small 1x1 quarter circle pieces, and then of course we're going to add one of our massive bag of yellow tiles, and then a stud will go on top like that, and that'll give us our curved corner for our base plate. Now, the only downside of this is that we do get ever such a tiny corner of the original base plate on the bottom layer sticking out from underneath the plates and the tiles. And although this isn't ideal, it is a small compromise and I'm happy to live with it. As base plates don't come in many different sizes, our only real option other than this would be to take a large knife and cut the corner off the base plate, and I really don't want to have to do that. So our next job is to add an awful lot of 2x4 green tiles on top of the plates. And while I do that, I'm going to start watching the film Jobs, which is all about the history of Steve Jobs starting the Apple company. And so that's all the tiles added, and that only took 21 minutes, not too bad. We've got all those, you may have seen me rubbing it with my sweatshirt there. I was just trying to get them all smooth and flat, and then I turned it over and rubbed it again from the other side, and I think the table helped sort of push them all in, and I think that's now a pretty sturdy base plate. It doesn't flex like it did as much, you can see it bends ever so slightly, but hardly at all compared to what it was when it was just one layer of plates and the base plates. These tiles, of course, they cross all the joins on the plates because I'm doing the same pattern around each one. If this one is crossing a joint, then this one isn't, but every joint gets crossed because obviously these are 6 studs wide and the plates are multiples of 8. So at some point every joint on the plates will get crossed over by a tile, and it just adds that extra strength to the whole thing. So like I said earlier, I've bought 350 2x2 yellow plates. We're going to use 128 of those now and add them all in just before we then add all the studs on top. So each step is getting quicker and quicker. That one only took 5 minutes, and each step is also making it stronger and stronger. It flexes now even less than it did just before I added these plates, and that's really good because once we've added those studs on top, I don't want it to be able to flex hardly at all, otherwise the studs will pop off when we're trying to move it around. And so the very last job today is to add those 128 studs. And so we have our final base plate, and I think that is a pretty good match for the original. And I thought it would be fun, just while we've got it here, to add a few of the other upscaled things that I've made. So there's our 1x2 brick, there's our 2x4 treasure chest, there's a steering wheel, a letter tile, a 1x2 brick, there's a 2x3 plate, and then a couple of 1x1 plates. So video number 1 for the upscale snack bar, we didn't get the whole of step 1 done, but we did get the first piece built, which is a fairly major piece, and hopefully all the other pieces will be a lot quicker to build, and we're going to get more done in each video. I'm hoping for video number 2 we're going to get all the rest of those white bricks done, we're going to complete step 1, but you may have to wait a couple of weeks for me to get all the other white parts that I need to complete step 1. So all that's left to say is, if you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up and share it around. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you'd like to help fund this project, you could consider becoming a channel member and get your name on a white brick in my videos. And you can do that by clicking the join button below or the link in the description, and that'll tell you how. Alternatively, if you buy things from lego.com, please use my affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything, but Lego give me a small commission on everything that people buy. But most of all, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe for more Lego videos.